Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this, our March edition of the Textile Care series of webinars, jointly presented by the Guild of Cleaners and Launderers and the Worshipful Company of Launderers. Today is the anniversary of the first lockdown in the UK as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, and we in Great Britain have lost over 140,000 people who died within 28 days of being diagnosed with the COVID-19. The Prime Minister Boris Johnson made a TV announcement this evening stating that already 28 million people in the UK have had the first vaccine jab, and 2 million of those have gone on to have a second also. Hopefully, the rest of the world can soon catch up, and then we will all be in a safer place. Right, to the business in hand. I don't think there's anybody else in the waiting room. To the business in hand this evening. We have two presentations for you. The second is from Paul Middleton, who is the Technical Director of HeiQ, who is going to talk to us about a product they have developed that coats fabrics in a washing machine and is branded as Viroblock MPJ 03. But first we have one headed up by Rod Nutter from Richard Haworth about choosing the right textiles for rental laundry operations. Richard Haworth is a family-owned and managed business and is located in Lancashire, with its 40,000 square foot facility at Kersley Mill in Radcliffe. It was established in 1876 and is famous for producing fine quality bed linen and towels. And tonight, our presenter Rod is being joined by their quality manager Ian Yates, who will explain their testing and quality product compliance against standards for performance, and also Chris Kingsford, who will share information with us on guidance for customers to the right product in relation to their inquiry. I'm in danger of giving your presentation for you, Rod, so...
You're doing a good job there, Ken. It's okay, you carry on.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Just a point there, you mentioned 40,000 square feet warehouse, but it's actually 240,000 square feet.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I got the 40,000 off the website.
Oh, right. Well, we'll get that changed then. Thank you very much. Okay, so first of all, thank you very much, Ken, for inviting Richard Haworth to present this evening, and to the Worshipful Company of Launderers. So my name is Rod Nutter. I've been in textiles for 45 years. You could say I've been in textiles all my life, actually. My father was in textiles abroad, so I grew up walking in and out of mills since the age of 7. Joining me this evening, as Ken's just said then, is Ian Yates on quality, and Chris Kingsford, our sales guru here at Richard Haworth. What we're going to try and do is take you on a behind the scenes view of what goes on at Richard Haworth in all things textiles. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll be better informed and better positioned when you're choosing textiles for whatever your needs. I thought a good place to start would be just to go back a little bit. As I said, I've been doing this for 45 years, textiles that is. First 11, 12 years was actually in production, and then laterally was all commercial, in fact, involving running businesses. Back in the 70s, life was also simple. We had one basic sheet, which was a 60 square 20s open end 100% cotton sheet. So those of you that go back as far as I do will remember that vividly. With one towel, maybe two, it was on a 450 or 500 gram, and generally with a different colour header, which denoted each individual laundry that it was belonged to. And if you wanted a bath mat, it was one only, Greek Key bath mat. And if you wanted table linen, you had the choice of Ivy Leaf damask cotton table linen, and that was it. It was actually satin band rather. And kitchen linen was actually very much as it is today. Your waiters' cloths, your glass cloths, etc., etc. So fast forward to today, and life is not so simple. We have over 2,000 lines, or SKUs as we often refer to them. We've got 13 different qualities of bed linen, from 130 thread count right up to 800 thread count. Just a word on the 130 thread count, that's our prima quality. And this is kind of touches on development here at Richard Haworth. That was developed many years ago to take place of the 100% cotton 145 grams. So it's a lighter weight, stronger, lasts longer, it ticks a lot of boxes, and it's actually more efficient to buy. So in addition to the 130 thread count. We've got thread counts that go right up to 800. We've got 6 individual stripe qualities on bed linen. And towels, we've got 11 ranges of towels now, from 450 to 700 gram, mosaic for spa, and coloured headers for leisure towels. Bath mats, we've got a range of 4, including the Greek Key bath mat. It's stood all the test of time. And table linen, you've now got a choice of 5 ranges from Richard Haworth. In fact, we just launched a new one, which is 100% cotton linen napkins. Our Amalfi table linen is again a development or a derivative development from Milliken in America, from the original signature range, which is 100% cotton, and we've got that available in 28 colours on 18 sizes. Not to mention duvets, pillows, mattress protectors, kitchen linen, accessories. We've got products that will completely fit out your bedroom, your bathroom, and your dining room. So it's now not quite so simple. In fact, it's quite a complex problem to manage that range of products. Excuse me. So managing stock can be quite interesting, to say the least. We've got different sizes along with all the different ranges. We've got extra sizes. Apart from standard sizes, we've got large doubles, we've got Emperor duvet covers, and more besides. You'll typically find on a Prima sheet, for example, which is 130 thread 70/30 cotton polyester, it has to be available in 3 different lengths to account for all different customers, just to add those extra few challenges to our purchasing. Long gone are the days when a 20x34 size pillowcase fit all pillows. Today there are several pillows available out there, and boy do hotels like to use them. So we've now got a range of pillowcases to cope with all those different sizes of pillows. Towels, they've developed as they've optimized for processing and appearance and handle. Table linen, as I said, we've got a range of 500 lines in 28 colors and 18 sizes. So a lot of time and a lot of thought goes into planning and forecasting. Bear in mind, we work on a 16-week lead time with most manufacturers from various parts of the globe. And we're working 6 to 9 months ahead of requirements out there from the market. You throw in a pandemic and you can see life becomes very, very interesting. Now, of course, if every customer of ours provided us with a forecast for 12 months, life would be easy. But sadly, we're not there yet. Maybe one day. So our supply chain and non-responsible sourcing. We source globally, as I mentioned, and we use established mills with long relationships. We only use the best mills out there. Technical know-how is really important for us. Ideally, manufacturers have got their own labs out there, laboratories, so testing can be going on an ongoing basis. That breeds confidence in quality and that consistency of quality that we're looking for day in, day out, delivery in, delivery tomorrow. Sourcing globally can throw up some interesting challenges. Most recently, we've seen container prices increase 300% and 400% because of the shortage of containers caused by the pandemic, not least because of PPE. So we now find suppliers only prepared to ship on what you call an FOB basis, as a free on board, as opposed to, say, AF or CPT. The reason being the mills can't really cope with those increased costs of containers within the prices that they're quoting at the moment. It's those variable costs that they just can't manage. So now the onus is on people like ourselves and our competitors, no doubt, to cope with those increased prices almost by the day. Knowledge of cotton prices and foreign exchange prices is key, and timing is really important. Again, we've seen, just to put people in the picture, yarn prices soar recently, just to make life a little bit more interesting. Prices have increased, and I'd probably say they would set to increase further. We hope not, but at the moment, we can't see them falling, and we think we're set with the current price levels for probably the remainder of this year. So modern manufacturing. Modern manufacturing has come a long way, just like our market's developed over the last 30 years. So we have no shuttle looms anymore. Most looms are air jets and projectiles, and blended with the state-of-the-art spinning equipment today. There's a real capability out there of producing consistent quality, delivery after delivery. But it's not just about the equipment. It's also about the management within those particular businesses. And good management systems are absolute key. ISO 9000 being an absolute mandatory requirement. Financial strength is very important to survive the pandemic, not least, and continued investment in equipment. Good, clear communication to us is vital. We feel it's essential. If we send an email, we get a quick response. If we phone up, that call is answered. Technical competence is required for product development, but it also goes an awful long way to providing that consistency of quality, where they keep their eye on the quality. We know the relationships are very important. Relationships are very important to us with our customers. They're also very important to us as our suppliers. And it helps kind of them and us working together to cope with those political, economic, social, and technical requirements. Then we go on to CSR. That's an absolute requirement these days. So I'm just going to touch on 3 particular ones to give you a flavour of what we're involved with and how that supports you, our customers out there, and prospective customers out there. So ETI is the Ethical Trading Initiative. It's almost now a mandatory requirement. It's a not-for-profit organisation, and at Richard Haworth, we're involved with the Ethical Trading Initiative right from the outset, and it's something we're very proud of. Essentially, it drives practices that protects workers. It shares best practice, and it supports members to build a more resilient supply chain. Health and safety and human rights are at the very heart of the Ethical Trading Initiative. They consider it to be an absolutely fundamental right at work. It's all about prevention of modern slavery, working age, or low working ages rather, poor labour rates, and overstretched long working hours. Now, I don't think this has ever been more typical than it is today. Those of you who follow the BBC and other news medias will be aware of what's going on and the atrocities being committed in the Xinjiang province of China. And it's all the Uyghur Muslims that are being persecuted right now. So bad is this particular problem right now. Our Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, has issued a statement recently saying all exports from that region of China will now be monitored. Recently, it was reported that 570 Uyghur Muslims were forced into the fields to harvest to pick the cotton. And there's so many other distressing reports coming out about correction camps, prisons, you make of it what you want, and other awful atrocities committed to the Uyghur Muslims out there. Then we move on to SEDEX. Now, SEDEX is all about ethical audits. It's about transparency throughout your supply chain. And their aim is to foster customer loyalty through that transparency. You'll often hear references to SMETA audits, which is simply a SEDEX member ethical trade audit. So it's a system, it's an organization rather, it's probably the world's largest collaborative platform. And as a member, you can log onto sites and look at all the audits that have been placed on there from your suppliers. So they just foster that transparency right down throughout your supply chain. There are over 40,000 SMETA audits uploaded every year. Of course, standards have to be met, and you can see the standards that they meet within those audits. And there are targets for suppliers to meet. I think they call them 2 pillars and 4 pillars. But essentially, they're monitoring labour standards, health and safety, environmental, business ethics, and social compliance. I think it's a great system because what it does, it fosters that relationship between ourselves and our immediate supplier to actually work with them to develop their standards to improve their audits on an ongoing basis. And then I've chosen the Better Cotton Initiative. This is really important. And again, I just want to touch on something that's very topical. They are so concerned and appalled by what they're hearing about the Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang area of China. They have now pulled out and refused to work with any manufacturer in textiles out there. I think it says it all, quite honestly. So the Better Cotton Initiative, rather, is a multi-stakeholder organisation. Again, it's a non-for-profit organisation, and it organises the stewarding of better cotton systems used by ginners, trade spinners, and other valued trained trade stakeholders, including retailers and ourselves. It's a unit-based system. The way it works is 1 better cotton unit is equal to 1 kilo of physical better cotton lint, serviced from a better cotton initiative ginner. So at harvest, the better cotton is physically separated and it's tracked. Then 100% of better cotton is purchased by traders and spinners. Then it's mixed. But there's a mass balancing chain of custody system in place, which ensures cotton sold as better cotton has to equal cotton claimed as better cotton. It can never deviate. It's now the largest cotton sustainability program in the world. Its aim is to make global cotton production better for the people who produced it, better for the environment that it's grown in, and builds capacity through training farmers on the ground to grow better cotton with experienced partners by their side. We are now being asked to use suppliers, by our customers rather, to use suppliers of better cotton. Marks and Spencer recently said they will only deal with suppliers who are part of the Better Cotton initiative. So now I'm going to hand you over to Ian Yates. Now we're sharing a computer, so I'll be moving sideways to maintain our social distancing, so Ian can come and grab the limelight. Over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Rod. Good evening, everybody. It's a bit new for me. I'm a bit of a technophobe, so talking to a computer. Okay, so just following up on what Rod has just said, and there's a lot of detail in there, probably a lot to take on board, but it just sort of emphasizes how complex the textile world is. But once we get that part right, it's how does a commercial launderer choose the right products that you need to satisfy your customers each and every time? Well, the simple answer to that is the key is to find a supply of consistent quality. Now, to be clear on quality, quality does not simply mean that you choose the top of the range for every scenario. It sounds like that would be great, but it simply isn't. What it would do, it would lead to actually exceeding a requirement, which can be costly, and also you end up using a product that's not perfect for the end use. Quality is about providing the best level a particular item can be in its class, but also including excellent service provision and continuity of that product. For example, it would be unfair to compare a 450-gram towel with a 650-gram towel and say that the 450 is of a lesser quality. The fact is they are different qualities on purpose and cannot be and should not be compared. However, what is important, and this is the key, is that the quality and the consistency levels of the whole supply process are the same. So what this means is that the attention to detail is no less observed regardless of the product. Choosing the right textile means to establish what is needed to achieve fit for purpose. So, for example, where a 600-gram towel may not be suitable in an environment where a 450-gram towel may be perfect. A gym, for example, you would never put a 600-gram towel in a gym, unless it's a very high-end gym, of course, but they just wouldn't. It would exceed what you would need. So therefore, it's not that it's a lesser quality, it's simply a quality fit for purpose, and that is where the actual key lies. To sort of emphasize this in a very strange demonstration is a Ferrari better than a Land Rover? Most people would immediately say, yes, of course it is, without question. However, if you put both of those vehicles in a muddy field, which one would you actually choose to get you out of it? The Ferrari becomes absolutely useless. It doesn't matter how much horsepower it's got, it's not fit for purpose. And that's exactly what we're trying to say as linen suppliers. The need for fit for purpose is key. There's a massive differing requirement out there for a massive scope of end users, and we must try and match all that. One size will not fit all. But servicing all that, but never sacrificing the quality consistency. So as linen suppliers, it is in our DNA to provide relevant and knowledgeable help to the launderer with their decision on choosing the right textiles. When choosing the right textiles, the launderer should be able to take the view that the products are already suitable for use and that the linen supplier themselves has already carried out their own due diligence to ensure the linen can withstand the laundry environment. It is the aim of the linen supplier to try and make the launderer's life as straightforward as possible. Laundry environments are both similar and different at the same time. In a very basic nutshell, and I do mean very basic nutshell, all laundries wash and dry textiles, but the processes, chemicals and machinery can vary greatly. So when it comes to designing a textile product, we have to consider many factors to ensure it appropriate, i.e. going back to the fit for purpose. They must be able to withstand the rigors of repeated commercial laundering. We must consider machinery manufacturers. They want to supply the best chemical they can, the most efficient machines, machine manufacturers, detergent manufacturers. What we have to consider is what detriment might these machines and chemicals have on the linen's lifespan. Many chemicals are quite vicious on their own and have to be balanced out. Very alkali to begin with, acidic at the other end to neutralize that out. And our fabrics have to be able to balance that out and survive it essentially. So to fully understand the product's performance, many physical tests are carried out to ensure that it is suitable to work in hand with both machinery and chemicals. At Richard Haworth, we work closely with carefully selected suppliers who help develop products that meet many criteria in line with our own specifications. Each product is subject to appropriate testing parameters, which include dimensions, weight, shade, strength, dimensional stability to laundering, i.e. shrinkage and fabric distortion from the ironers, composition, construction, just to name but a few. We carry out these tests in our on-site laboratory where we check both pre-shipment samples and receive bulk deliveries. However, wash trials carried out commercial laundries are a vital part of the research and development of understanding a product's performance. No doubt many people listening have probably had suppliers wanting to use some of their time up to wash some product. All this is very vital to ensure fit for purpose. In addition to this, we also use the services of independent testing facilities, auditors at the actual suppliers' manufacturing plants all around the world, and they carry out inline inspections for us to ensure that the products are meeting those specifications previously mentioned. We firmly believe that choosing the right quality is always the best economy, and this feeds back into you don't need top of the range for everything. Get the right quality, and that will pay dividends. However, and in all honesty, any system is not 100% infallible. Non-standard product can make its way through the supply chain. Statistical analysis, or AQL, tells us this and is based around it. Therefore, another part of choosing the right textile is choosing the right supplier. In the unlikely event of a product failure, the launderer should be able to raise any issue with their linen supplier, who will then investigate to find the reason and provide a solution to the issue raised, whether this be a product fault and, dare I say it, candidly, a processing issue. The choosing of the right textiles can be complex, and therefore the confidence you have in your linen supplier is essential part of the selection process. As Rod has previously mentioned, there are ethical parameters also to consider. Ethical factors, environmental factors are very much in the public eye, and using a supplier who takes these factors seriously will help you in you making your final choice, textiles, the right choice. That was me. Thank you very much for your time. I hope that has given you some valuable food for thought. Hopefully when the pandemic's over, you can come and actually visit us at the mill and see what we do here. And until then, I bid you adieu.
Thank you very much, Ken. Cheers.
Thank you.
So I'm very conscious of time, Ken. Got one slide here very quickly. Just talk about the modern laundry. It's invaluable. The time we spend in laundries is invaluable. We need to understand our customers now and tomorrow, as we did yesterday. It's a moving beast in terms of equipment that's used in laundry today. Very quickly, 15 years ago, you very rarely find 64 bar pressure on the end of a membrane press. Now it's commonplace, and we need to understand how our products sustain those sort of pressures. We've got calendar speeds, we've got differential speeds, we've got bed temperatures. It's very important we understand exactly how that affects our products. So I'm not going to say any more about that. We have got time pressure on us here. I'm going to hand you over to Chris Kingsford, who's going to talk about how he guides customers to the right product from various inquiries that he takes on board. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Rod. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Now, as Rod has already mentioned, there are a plethora of options for laundries to select from when it comes to finding the right linen for their hotel customer base. Many hotels will have an idea in their mind of what they want, but as often as not, their budget and aspiration won't meet what the laundry can offer from a standard pool stock. And as Ian said, what we need to do is provide a product fit for purpose. We listen to the brief from the laundry and get a picture of what their hotel customer ideally wants and match our ranges to the needs of the laundry and the hotel. But for the laundry, efficiency in processing is key. A 100% cotton 200 thread count per cale is a sumptuous product that delivers a crisp, clean finish. By comparison, a 200 thread count blended 80-20 product passes through the production process seamlessly and efficiently, and often delivers the same result. It's important that we know what sizes the hotel's beds are and how they like to finish the bed. Is the duvet cover tucked in all round, as well as at the bottom of the bed? Are there larger size pillows to consider? Only this morning I spoke to a national housekeeping manager for a group of hotels, and she drills into her teams that a double room doesn't necessarily mean a double bed. For example, also, some people refer to a 180 centimeter, 1.8 meter bed as a super king bed. There are others who think that's a king and that a super king is a 200 by 200. A few years ago, we did an exercise with a laundry about the marketplace they were looking to break into and the ranges they ideally wanted to offer. We proposed our Prima 70-30 as their entry-level range, with our Kensington 80-20 200 thread count for higher-end properties, adding our Dunham 450-gram towels to sit with the Prima stock and premium Madison 600-gram towels with the Kensington. We gave them exactly what worked for their target market and continues to do so to this day. Recently, I had a call from a small laundry to ask me about better quality linen for a potential new customer of theirs who was unhappy with their current launderer and wanted an upgrade. However, the reality was that they would have wasted money offering a higher end range, since this was a budget hotel where cost was everything. We talked through their offer and have successfully persuaded the customer to take our Prima range of bed linen without having had to stretch themselves financially for a product that represented overkill for that particular property. The hotel market will take a long time to recover from the pandemic, and we will want to offer the best possible quality of linen without spending too much on its laundry supply. Plus ça change there. And it's very important that we as suppliers work with our laundry partners to be their trusted advisors in the areas we excel at, namely linen, and that we help them to deliver the right quality for the hotels they service. Sometimes being there to accompany our laundry partners to meetings with their customers and discussing a brief very often helps to deliver what the hotel wants, as well as making the laundry's job a lot easier. The creation of that three-way partnership of hotel, laundry, and textile supplier adds strength to the project and hopefully enhances the relationship the laundry has with the hotel. As textile suppliers, we have a duty of care for the environment, and end-of-life recycling of textiles plays more and more a significant part. As members of TSA, we actively participate in the provision of linen that can be reused and recycled, and we constantly look for options that offer cost-effective processing and longer life. So choosing the right linen doesn't just stop at the laundry store. It forms an important bond in the life cycle of a textile. Now, to finish, here's a 20-second or so video of our manufacturing facility at Bolton, of which we're extremely proud, where we can make bespoke products for our customers and where we have our own embroidery division, which all adds to being able to fulfill the requirements of the end user.
Thank you very much, Chris. So in summary, we hope this insight, albeit brief, covering an awful lot of ground in a short period of time, has helped you if you're looking for the right product from a trusted supply partner. We hope everybody comes through this difficult pandemic well, and business actually starts to return to normal anytime soon. Thank you for your time, and over to you, Ken.
Thank you very much, Rod, and thank you very much, Ian and Chris. Very interesting. And I realise when I set this up, I should have allowed you more time because it is obviously a big subject that deserves more time. Is there any quick questions before we move on to our next speaker? I should have asked you to use the chat facility at the bottom of the screen, but if you can, just show a hand and I'll unmute you long enough to ask a question. Any quick questions of our three speakers on textiles? There's no reactions.
Good.
So thank you very much, gentlemen.
Got away later there. Thanks very much, guys.
We have your details, so if any questions come up later, and no doubt we'll be able to redirect them to you at Richard Haworth.
Yeah, with pleasure, Ken.
Thank you very much for the efforts you put into the presentation. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Much appreciated.
You're welcome.
Our second speaker, Paul Middleton, is from HeiQ. I hope I've pronounced it right, Paul.
Right, well done. Yes.
It was founded in 2005 and is a spin-off from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, and has achieved no less than 17 recognitions in the last 15 years. They have development laboratories in Zurich, Switzerland, and Concord in North Carolina in the USA. Paul himself has 36 years experience in the dyeing and finishing industry and is a global technical director of HeiQ. He is a chartered colorist. Now that sounds very impressive. It's an award. It is impressive. It's an award from the Society of Dyers and Colorists, which is an outstanding provider of color education, offering a range of internationally recognized coloration courses and qualifications. Well done, Paul, for achieving that.
Yes.
Paul supplies worldwide technical support to all of the HeiQ technical teams. Now, as Paul does his presentation, you'll be able to see just how widely they are throughout the world. So I don't want to take his paper up. I'll pull it up onto the screen for you, Paul, and just give me 1 minute to get the technical.
So a little bit about me. So I started as a dyer and finisher in 1984 when we used to have dye houses in the Midlands, dyeing jumpers, socks, hosiery, polyester cotton. I sort of went through being a shift dyer to a dye house manager to a technical manager. I then went on for 16 years to work for a company called Courtaulds, which I think when the last mill closed in Belper 4 years ago, had been operational for 270 years. And that then gave me the opportunity to move over to HeiQ, and basically for 3 years I travelled the world, meeting brands, presenting HeiQ products, enjoying much seeing mills throughout Asia and sorting out problems and installing HeiQ processes into them plants. As we all know, a year ago exactly, the pandemic hit. I climbed off a plane on the 28th of February from Taiwan and haven't been on one since. So the world has changed significantly. As Ken said, HeiQ is 16 years old. We actually celebrated the 16th birthday yesterday. Two co-founders, Carlos Enzoni, who's based in Zurich in Switzerland, and Yates, and that's partly where the name came from, who's now based at Deakin University, Geelong in Australia. Basically, the headquarters is in a suburb called Sleren in Zurich, but we've got manufacturing just outside Zurich. We've got manufacturing in North Carolina at Concord, and we've got manufacturing in Australia just north of Melbourne. We've got testing facilities and R&D facilities again in North Carolina, in Zurich. And R&D facilities again in North Carolina, in Zurich. Association with Deakin University in Melbourne. So
have I gone too far for you?
No, that's fine. So okay, will you uncollide them? Okay, so I think this is just covering what we've already done. Founded 16 years ago, Carlos Enzoni and Yates. We're a spin-off from the Swiss Federation Institute. We're growing fast. It says 90 professionals here, and I think I sent Ken this about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We're already up to 125. The company has quadrupled in the last year, basically because of Viroblock. But next slide, please. Okay, so I think this sort of shows who we work with. Blue Sign in Zurich started basically the same time as HeiQ. We've very much grown up in hand with them, so all our chemicals are Blue Sign, Okotex, ZDHC. We drive very much towards sustainability and being extremely green. We've also got bio-based odorators nowadays, and then we've got what I'm talking about tonight, the HeiQ Viroblock, which breaks down coronaviruses, including the current coronavirus circulating around the world, SARS-CoV-2. Okay, next slide. Again, this is what I've covered. We've got Murray in Australia, we've got HeiQ Taiwan, HeiQ Shanghai, HeiQ Porto, HeiQ Switzerland, and then the manufacturing and testing facilities in North Carolina in America. We've got a team in Sri Lanka, distributors throughout India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, and we're basically growing very fast. In fact, we've just signed an office up for South Africa in the last 48 hours. Next slide, please. We've used the Swiss penknife here, but this is highlighting what we offer, that we offer development, research, sampling, on-site education, testing, support, marketing. We try to supply the whole field what a textile customer is looking for. So I think it's important to say that we are a company what still invests heavily in R&D. If you notice, I mentioned we've got 4 R&D centres. It's a passion of Carlo and Murray that we spend on R&D, and we're bringing out new chemicals. We're actually launching 6 new chemicals next week, such as the investment. I think this one we mentioned also at this junction, we actually floated on the London Stock Exchange at the beginning of December last year, which nicely raised £60 million. So that's a lot of that's going into research and development, as well as becoming a couple of other companies. So we're a company what's growing extremely fast. Next slide, please. This is just a taste of companies what we work with. We're a traditional textile company in the UK. I've done an awful lot of work with Speedo, with Marks and Spencers, with Berghaus. We're doing things with British Steel, Tata in brackets, British Airways. But as you go, we're also working with people like Duluth, Echo, Patagonia, what have green sustainable aspirations. Next slide, please. Okay. So this is his history. This is the history that we've run an awful lot towards, like Ken said. It's basically because of all the chemicals, different odors, different DWRs, what we've bought out over the years. So traditionally, we've been famous as a company for creating odor control, for creating DWR waterproof control, and temperature, climate, cooling control for textiles. And this is why we've won awards. Next slide, please. Okay, this is just covering our manufacturing capacity. Like I say, the suburb where the manufacturing plant is in Zurich is called Bad Zurzach. I've already mentioned North Carolina, and then we've got Geelong in Australia. So that's just a snap at where his production facilities are. Next slide, please. Okay, development labs. I think I've touched on this, but we've got development labs in Switzerland, North Carolina, Australia, Shanghai, and we've opened it this year, one in Porto. Yeah, you see somebody here working on a powder and stenting machine, abrasion. That machine, what looks a little bit like a baby's incubator, is actually what we use to measure a chemical called Smart Temp, which is all about temperature control, that when your body surface, it's 30 degrees, it changes its polymer structure to remove water, heat, sweat away and evaporate it as quickly as possible to cool you back to your comfy testing. So, like I say, we're growing much into development. Next slide, please. Okay, we do a lot of research with universities. Deakin University is always going to be his main one because that's where Mo is based, but we also do a lot of research, especially in Germany, Switzerland and North Italy. Yeah, as we dive more and more into the world of symbiotics, probiotics, advanced odor controls with no heavy metals, university work becomes more and more prominent. Okay, next slide, please. They're just professors what we use to consult about as technologies or way forward. Next slide, please. Because we've got 63 of them. That's the main family. This is HeiQ today. So we've got Viroblock one I'm going to cover. Smart Temp is huge. It's all about temperature control. It's his biggest selling product. It's for next to skin products. That includes bed linen, base layers, underpants. 40% of American men will be wearing underwear what's treated with Smart Temp, but it's actually called X-Temp over there, but it's a big one. Clean Tech's all about the efficient dyeing of polyester, saving time, water and energy by a third. Pure and fresh. Pure is our range of odor control, what contains silver chloride, and the fresh is chemicals which are free of any heavy metals, quartz, which are eco-friendly towards eco-dry, towards odor control. Eco-dry, huge area. So there's been legislation over the last 15 years, and there's more legislation that any waterproofing that contains fluorocarbons, C8, C6, C4, has got to be dialed out in the next few years. And we've spent a lot of time developing and launching different waterproofing chemicals, what are eco and green for different fibers. Wheel silk, or wheel silk looks, that's exactly what it says. So that is short fiber staple fibers of silk, what's suspended in a softener and actually gives your garments a touch of wheel silk. Hexaflex is the only thing in our range which is not a chemical. It's actually a deposition of aluminium over one side of the fabric, thus cutting down the need for insulation. So sleeping, the best thing is big winter coats or sleeping bags where you've got this big wadding insulation in the middle. Instead, you put this film of aluminium on one side and it retains the same amount of heat. Glide we've actually dropped. Sunblock is exactly what it says. That's a range of UV protectors, what you can provide to start with UVs passing through the garment. Next slide, please. What's the issue? Next slide. This is, yep. Right, so as we all know, we've got this pandemic. This pandemic has been caused by a human coronavirus called SARS-CoV-2. Very virulent, transmits very easy, and we just know what dangers it's caused. Right, so COVID-19 is the disease what the human gets. The actual current coronavirus, what's circulating around the world, is SARS-CoV-2. Its main ambition in life is to make itself a nice, thick cholesterol wall around its structure. When you see the pictures like the one slightly on the right here on the BBC and other media news, it doesn't really show this protective cholesterol wall, but that's its main mission in life. So the most ready source of cholesterol is in the lungs. So what the coronavirus 2 always tries to do is go into the throat tract and the lungs of humans to gain lots and lots of this nice cholesterol and make itself a protective wall. The only trouble is in doing that, it causes the disease COVID-19 with the sad results. So the cholesterol wall in this presentation is very important. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is sort of like the difference between a virus and a bacteria. So a virus is an infectious substance. They can have a DNA or RNA center. You tend to find the enveloped coronavirus have an RNA center, and the unenveloped is DNA. So typical between the two is the current virus, the SARS-CoV-2, has got an RNA center, something like the parvovirus, which attacks and kills dogs, non-enveloped, but that's got a DNA center. So it usually infects specific cell types in humans or animals and plants. And as we know, it can cause diseases. This is talking about the fact that it can be enveloped or non-enveloped, and the envelope is referring to this rich membrane which is protecting it, its main function. Size to 20 to 300 nanometers, so extremely small. Most of them is in the nano range. We know that it basically invades the host cell and replicates and basically is trying to get the cholesterol. Examples, the SARS-CoV-2, and then others what circulated over the last 18 years is the aviation foods, the H1N1, H5N1, herpes virus and hepatitis. Herpes at the moment, actually, I found over this weekend that there is an unbelievable amount of horses dying in Europe, very expensive horses, with herpes, but they think the transmission rates accelerated because it's piggybacking on the back of SARS-CoV-2. And then diseases it causes COVID-19, influenza, chickenpox, SARS, HIV. Bacteria, single-cell organism, natural part of the environment, mainly harmless, as we know, can be gram-positive like Staphylococcus aureus or gram-negative like your Clade B or your E. coli family. A lot bigger in size, 1,000 nanometers, going towards macro. Bacteria, what cell division, why we say that is what bacteria are. They're a little bit like humans. So they come out in the human sweat, they land in your clothing or in your bed linen, and they like to eat. So if it's really lucky, it's got a bit of warmth from the human body, it's got a bit of moisture from the human body, it's got food in way of waxes, lipsines, and dead skin. Yummy, yummy, eats, produces a waste. It's that waste what you can smell. That's your sweat smell. But also, as it gets up into, it grows in size, it parts, it subdivides, and that's how bacteria multiplies. So that means if you put some bacteria with lots of nice nutrients on a petri dish, you can go from having 6 to 10 bacteria to 100,000 in 18 hours because it just loves eating and separating. Food poisoning, meningitis, pneumonia. So we mentioned them because Viroblock kills and destroys both of them. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is sort of covering the virus is trying to cycle in the cells, how it's trying to eat these cholesterol, making this rich membrane, and how it can actually grow and make more slides. So this is just the virus entering the cells. Next slide, please. Because I'm only on 18. This is just basically that if you wear masks, it's giving great filtration. And then if you've got something like Viroblock in there, you're also killing bacteria and destroying viruses. Next slide, please. What's the solution? Next slide, please. We love slides, don't we? Okay, so we've been manufacturing and selling silver technology for the whole 16 years. That's as HeiQ started, but they need to, because they went mountain climbing and they wanted to stop smelling the sweat. What we've come up with is Viroblock, MPJ03. And it's got 2 ingredients, and that is important. There's a lot of things out there which may kill the coronavirus, but either A, it destroys it very quickly, but then it evaporates off and it's gone within 2 hours, very akin to your alcohol, or B, it's just something like silver, copper, zinc based, and it takes 2 hours to get through the cholesterol wall before it actually starts attacking the sulfur groups. What we've got is 2 ingredients. We've got the vesicle technology, which breaks down the wall. It opens the door. And then we've got the silver technology where the ions destroys the sulfur groups inside. So what we've created is something what's quite instant, works very quickly to destroy the virus and kill the bacteria. You'll notice I keep saying destroy the kill because we have to work to what the HSE says we've got to work to. And then, like I say, the silver ions march in and breaks down the center. basically it's cutting down contamination, transmission, and it's destroying the virus and bacteria. It's actually stable for 30 washes up to 60 degrees. We've got lots of certificates, what's covering blue tie, Oak-Tech, sustainability, toxicity, skin patch, and non-leaching. So there's a whole rafter of different reports and certificates. It's cosmetic grade. We've got certificates stating that it's bio-based and it can be recycled with your goods. I think the previous guys mentioned the importance of recycling and sustainability. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is the famous structure, if you like. So what we've got here is you've got your RNA in the center, and round that protecting it is sulfur groups. What you need is a metal what transmits ions, which breaks down them sulfur groups. The moment you break down the sulfur groups, that RNA dies. We're using a non-nano silver chloride compound. It's important to state it's non-nano because that then means it's non-leaching and it won't enter the full skin or fault track. Next slide, please. Okay, and then this is our IP. This is our clever part. So we have got these Viroblock vesicle structures, or they are often called limisols. These are low in fat content. The virus is iron content. It's got this cholesterol membrane around it. So the limisols line up alongside the virus, and there is a fat transfer. It starts to break down at outer wall, and it starts to break it down in minutes, which allows the silver ions to break it. For layman people, I sort of say it's like putting a half-mile magnet alongside the Golden Gate Bridge and watching sections of the Golden Gate Bridge break away and jump across to the magnet. And then obviously the soldiers can march in. That's sort of like the layman terms. But this is our IP. And it also means, so A, it means fast acting, but B, it also means it's complexing around the fabric, around the yarn, and it gives us great durability. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is more just how, if it's untreated, the bacteria and the viruses just multiply and spread onto other people. Fabrics treated with the HeiQ Viroblock inhibit, kill the bacteria and breaks down the viruses. So it's keeping the fabric free and safe and cutting down the transmission of the pathogens. So it's just another way of expressing the fact that it's destroying everything. So this is a first test to sort of show that fabric treated with the Viroblock, you're getting your log 5s and you're getting your 99.99% reduction. So as you can see, we're hitting 99.9 in 30 minutes. What we did straight away, we've got the Institute of Melbourne, Peter Doherty, to run tests actually on the SARS-CoV-2. And there ain't many labs actually in the world what are allowed to handle SARS-CoV-2. But we got that done very early in the pandemic. And so we proved that within 30 minutes, Viroblock is effective to 99.99% 6 against the current virus. Because, yes, there isn't many labs in the world. You can go to a lot of labs and ask them to test, and they might give a fire-line test. Some of them might be able to test the previous coronaviruses, what circulated around the world, but there's only a handful which can actually test to cause SARS-CoV-2. Also very expensive. If you actually find a lab what will test SARS-CoV-2, they'll charge you about $12,000 per test for handling the SARS-CoV-2. Next slide, please. So again, this is showing speed. This is showing speed. Now, this is actually to the ISO 20743, which is an antibacterial test. But basically, if it's killing the bacteria, it will also destroy the virus. And we do most of this testing against bacteria, because a bacteria test costs about £200, and the minimum you'll pay for a virus test is £2,000 rather than £200. And yes, when you're doing something silly like 400 tests in a week, you can understand why you've got to test against bacteria. But this still shows the kill rate, that it's effective even after 1 minute to 98.3, and within 10 minutes you're between 99.9 and 100%. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this again is showing how effective it is against Staphylococcus aureus. So that is the bacteria which is most rampant on skin, and the bacteria what's in sweat from the human body. And it's the bacteria that basically, when it produces waste, is what you can smell. And it just shows that in 60 minutes, it's 99.98 effective. But even if you go down to 20 minutes, it's 99.5% effective. And then there's also the durability factor, that our chemicals can be durable for up to 7 years. It depends on wear or 30 washes. And it can be also durable on surfaces, textiles what aren't washed. Next slide, please. So again, this is just showing how effective it can be against Clade B, against Staphylococcus aureus, so that's your gram-negative and your gram-positive bacteria, and then even things like athlete's foot, or another bacteria in yeast and spores, mold, which exists in the world. Next slide, please. Have we got anything new to you? This is just about the application weights. I think that's the most significant thing. So the application weight is 5 to 10%, depending on what durability you're seeking. So if somebody comes along and says, I'm not washing, or I'm washing, I'm going to apply every wash, you can look around 5%. If they sort of say, no, I want to treat it and then go another 30 washes, you've got to apply 10%. It's a non-dangerous good, and it can be stored in normal storage conditions. There's nothing special. So I think it's worth mentioning that I would say most of the Viroblock around the world is being applied by Padder and Stenter, but it can be applied by wet exhaustion. It can be applied by spray. This is the testing of Viroblock. Next slide, please. Okay, so so the worldwide recognized test on textiles for antivirus is called the ISO 18184. We don't say it here, but 2019, because it's and then the bacterial one is ISO 20743 in Europe. In Asia, the frequently used JSL 1902, but it's to define tests. That's for hydrophilic fabrics. And then we've got two more tests, 201702 and the ASTM E2147 for hydrophobic fabrics or hydrophobic surfaces. But this is the range of tests what you can use around the world. We've got to be honest, we use a lab called MIS, Microbial Investigations, which was an offspring of the Swiss University about 10 years ago. We do use them. They are independent to us, but we have grown up closely together, and they've got labs in Switzerland, Shanghai, India, Porto. So all quantitative antimicrobial tests. And like I say, I think the important thing to take on board is that the Textile worldwide test for the SARS-CoV-2 or any coronavirus is the ISO 18184 test, hydrophilic, and you can test it against H3N2, H1N2, beta coronis, influenza, and and there's some of the Indian labs now actually providing SARS-CoV-2, but at enormous cost. I think it's also worth mentioning that a lot of labs to your antimicrobial test will produce have a lead time and produce results in about 3 to 4 weeks. Your virus labs will take 3 to 4 months, and if you're in Japan, because Japan, like South Africa, they are currently taking 14 months to carry out the testing, such as the demand, as you can imagine. Next slide, please. Okay, quality control. So what we've done, we've built up some quicker tests as well. So we've got the Viroblock identified test. I think there's a picture. So this is a test where you basically take a part of the fabric, you shake it in a marker solution for 1 hour, and then you drop in a indicator solution, the level of pinkness that shows if the Viroblock's on there, but you've got a 1 hour test. Yogurt back test is quite easy. Basically, if you put UHT milk onto a fabric and there's bacteria on there, it will eat it, it will multiply, and it will produce lactic acid. The lactic acid will do two things. It will drastically drop the pH of that fabric, and it will make it smell horrible. So it's a quick test that you can pour it on, leave the bacteria to do the job for 4 hours. If it's dropped pH from 7 to 5, you've got a lot of bacteria. If it's stayed that it don't smell and the pH of the fabric hasn't dropped, you've got control of the bacteria, ain't eating the UHT milk. Another quick test. We've mentioned the ISO 20743 and the ASTM E249, which is your famous test. Thanks God, AATC have made a 147, which is a lot more. It's a quantitative pass-fail test, but it's a lot quicker and cost-effective test compared to the AATC C100. And then we've got, again, ISO 20743 or JAS, they've missed the L, 1902 or ASTE 2147, which is your famous antimicrobial quantitative tests around the world. They're the main test what's used. Next slide, please. Right, I will quickly go through this because it's like, what time do you want to finish, Ken?
Well, you've told us what we need to know about Viroblock.
I basically covered Viroblock. This is the identified test that we have made this quick test, and basically it's a pink indicator test. And if it's strongly pink, it means you've got no Viroblock on the fabric. And if it's really light, it means you've got 10%. So we've tried to make on-site quicker tests. We can also use illumimeters and ATP and RLU testing. So one thing we've worked on is making quicker tests to indicate if the chemicals on there. Next slide, please. Yeah, next slide, please. So this is your famous Petri dish test. So this is where you get your bacteria, you feed it a lot of nutrients over 24 hours, you make it super strong, you put it on a Petri dish. One Petri dish has some treated fabric and another Petri dish has no treated fabric. You intubate it for 18 hours, you take it out and you basically do a count. And the idea is the one what's been treated has got 1 or 2 bacteria, and the one what's untreated is absolutely covered. So I think this form of testing is now worldwide and accepted as a guide that something is antimicrobial. Next slide, please. Yeah, yogurt back test, I've already covered, quite clever. You put UHT milk on fabric and you basically see if the pH drops and if it produces lactic acid. Very, very simple, super cost effective, super cheap, but it works. So it's an official one. Next slide, please. And then this is the official antiviral test. So as I say, again, it's very similar. You're making sort of super virus, and then you're running the test for 18 hours. Next slide, please. I think we've more or less reached the stage. Again, this is sort of showing that we've got log reduction of 3 on a Viroblock treated fabric. So again, log reduction of 3.4. So this again is sort of showing how there is a similarity between what results you achieve with the antimicrobial test and what results you achieve on the ISO 18184 test correlate, that there is a synergy between the two. If it's working on one, it'll work on the other because of course. Next slide, please. Now, this is about feedback. Right, I'm going Opran, so that's his marketing manager showing. We also make masks. So we're now making masks in Vietnam and masks in Spain. We've got his own range of masks, gloves, coats, PPE gear, but predominantly we are a chemical company. So I think we'll call it today at that because I think it's going into other areas, but that is the world of Viroblock. I think the key points to remember about Viroblock is it's got 2 active ingredients, not 1, so it quickly unlocks the door and quickly breaks down the virus and kills the bacteria, but it's also got great durability in lasting on the surface of something or to washing.
I think we'll stop there on that screen for you whilst we ask you some questions.
That's the world of HeiQ and that's the world of Viroblock. If there's any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. That was very interesting. Now, from a launderer's point of view, if I can ask the first question, please. Have you actually got any launderies throughout the world that are using or applying the Viroblock at this current time?
We've got laundries in Germany and we've got laundries in Spain what are using Viroblock as part of their process.
Right, so it is already an application that is applied to textiles for some reason. I can understand.
Textiles, it's fast. You know, we actually invented Viroblock 8 years ago.
Really?
Launched it 5 years ago. There were no pandemic, so nobody was really interested in it. So we concentrated on things like HeiQ, Pore Fashion, Eco Dry, where we could make some money. Literally a year ago, I think it is today, we launched Viroblock and we went from having 2 kilo on the shelf in the laboratory in Zurich to by last June, July, making 80 ton a day. That was the upscale, and we've just got, I think now, something like 170 brands what's applying it and 400 mills around the world.
Right. So the laundries in Germany that are actually applying it, are they doing it for hospitals or are they doing it for the general public?
I would say in Germany it's Joey hospital based. It's Joey medical based.
Right. So that's one market. And what about then the domestic market?
We haven't really touched the domestic market yet on the laundry side.
Right. But you can imagine because there is a pandemic throughout the world, there must be a market for domestic customers to have it applied to their laundry.
Are you talking domestic laundries or actually people in their own homes?
Well, it could be 2 ways, couldn't it? It could be a commercial laundry applying it to, say, wherever certain, say, for the food industry.
Correct.
Or it could be.
I think the strategy at the moment is to go for the industrial laundries, be it medical, where services. The strategy at the moment is not to go B2C.
Right. Okay. Are there any questions from our participants from the audience? There's nothing coming up on the chat line. Are we all stunned into silence? Can I ask another question then from you, Paul, to give people time to get the thoughts together? You and I exchanged emails a couple of weeks ago, and you talked about a 3 or 5% application rates.
Yes, depending on what durability you are seeking.
Yes, and will that be effective then for the 30 washes?
No, 3 to 5%, around the 5%. 3% I'll be looking for every wash. 5% you most probably be ranging between 5 to 10 washes. If you want the 30 washes, you need to apply 10% weight to fibre.
Right.
So it's exponential to the percentage you apply.
Okay. And is there a market for applying it to face masks?
Huge. Absolutely huge. I would say last summer our biggest usage initially was in China and Vietnam, and it were going on face masks. So in Britain, you can go on a site called Any Brand what's selling vast amount of face masks to industry where they print it. One TC, Will for One, treating all their masks with it. We've got Ains treating all those. I think the most famous company in UK what's having all their masks treated with it is Burberry's. We've got a vast range of his own masks what we're treating, but yes, as you can imagine, we are treating both woven and non-woven parts of face masks, but the initial growth was in face masks, but now it's translating into another PPE, another garment, bedwear, linen and surfaces. It's going into other areas, but certainly last summer the uptake in face masks was absolutely enormous.
So we've covered the obvious one for the hospitals. We've covered perhaps another avenue for the provider of workwear for the food industry. Talking about the domestic market for a dry cleaner offering laundry services, could they open a new market for face masks, reusable face masks?
It can be applied to reusable face masks. It can be applied actually on the material and they can wash it 3 times, or it can be applied to face masks again. But yes, 100%.
And for the customer who's actually concerned about the coronavirus, could it be applied then to other washable wear?
Yes, it can. Yeah, basically it can be applied to any fabric. We haven't found no limitations. So people, synthetics, polyamides, cotton, cellulosics, wools, it can be applied to virtually any fibre we've come across. We've even done things like hemp and milk fibre. And it can be applied, like I say, pad stent, wet exhaustion or spray.
And the quantities sold in, what is it normally sold in, the type of container?
We're normally now selling in either 100 kilo blue drums or IBCs. So you can obviously 25 kilo drums, jerry cans, depending which part of the world it is, 100 kilo open tops or your IBCs.
Are they coming straight from Switzerland, or is there a distributor in the UK?
No, everything's coming from Switzerland.
Right. So shipping costs would be a big feature then at the present time.
Shipping costs are very difficult to analyse at the moment, but yes, shipping costs is a big consideration.
Yeah, so it's something to consider going forward then, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But if we ever, obviously I've had conversations about possible distribution in the UK.
Right. Are there anybody, I can't see anybody trying to ask questions. You can use the reactions bar at the bottom of your screen. You can put your hands up and I'll try and pick you out from that if anybody's trying to ask a question. There's also the chat feature in the middle of the screen. You touch that, you should have a screen opens to type in a question. No, I think you've stunned them all into silence, Paul.
No, most probably didn't understand what I was talking about.
Well, I'm sure they did. It's turning it into a marketing opportunity. That's the thing, isn't it?
Well, I think the marketing opportunity for the world of linen is that, like you say, workwear. I think it's any workwear from county council workers, what I'm looking for, definitely medical, definitely veterinarian, food processing. I think building up a ecosystem within the world of hotels, yeah, you just realise the advantages of treating bed linen, especially if they wanted this policy when they have a client in the room, they keep the same bed linen during the duration, and then as it's taken away, they got reducing transmission. But yeah, the opportunities definitely, yeah, workwear and bed linen.
I can see there must be an awful lot of marketing opportunities. Well, thank you very much, Paul. It's been very kind. You a very interesting presentation.
Thank you very much for listening to me.
Well, it's been well received. Thank you very much. Very much appreciated.
Cheers, everybody.
Thank you all for joining in with us. Our next one is in April, when we will have Colin Patterson will be talking to us about sorting and classification, and we will have speakers both from Chris Staines and Ecolab talking us about where they're up to, their modern view on, again, the coronavirus. So join us on the, I think from memory, it's the 22nd of April, a Tuesday again on the 22nd of April. I thank you all for joining us, and I hope you've enjoyed this evening's presentation. And thank you again to our speakers this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.